Hi there! Tonight we wander the muddy lanes of a medieval village where the air hums with the scent of fresh-baked bread and the smoky tang of hearth fires glowing through shuttered windows. You're brushing past women in kirtles, their laughter ringing as they chase kids or swap jests by a well, their hands rough from spinning but eyes bright with mischief. This is a world where women's fun wasn't just feasts or fairs, it was woven into the daily grind, from market quips to fireside tales. Fair warning, you probably won't survive the cobblestones, the nosy geese, or the occasional splash from a slop bucket without quick feet and a good giggle. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not just passing through, you're stepping into the lives of medieval women, from peasants to noble ladies who carved joy from a world of toil and church bells, far from Rome's bacchanalia wine fests. Fun wasn't a weekend escape. It was snatched in moments, like a jest over laundry or a dance by torchlight, shaped by the village's rhythm. A mainstream fact sets the scene. By the 13th century, manorial records like those from Ramsey Abbey show women gathering for communal tasks, brewing, weaving, harvesting, where laughter and gossip turned work into play, a stark contrast. To Eleanor's silk-draped solar we visited before, you're dodging a cart of turnips, overhearing a woman, let's call her Alina, our old friend from Loveloaf fame, teasing her neighbour about a lopsided pie. You'd probably trip in the muck, muttering about needing medieval Yelp reviews, but Alina's grin shows fun was a spark in the daily grind, like Flavia's Roman market banter. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women played hot cockles, a game where one knelt blindfolded, guessing who tapped their head, often erupting in giggles over sneaky pinches, a far cry from Rome's oyster-fueled parties. Picture Alina kneeling, accusing her friend of cheating, only to guess the village goose instead. You'd laugh, imagining it's like a medieval prank show with feathers, unlike those crocodile dung potions we mixed. Historians still argue whether such games were true leisure or just work's sidekick like Marjorie's market deals. Some say they built community, like Alina's festival dances. Others think they were fleeting escapes in a life of labor, unlike Rome's elite symposiums. You're not sure, but Alina's cackle as she swats her friend suggests joy was real, even if it smelled of turnips. You pause by a well where women draw water, their chatter weaving tales of a peddler's bad haircut or a cow's escape, as lively as Ellen's gossip by Rome's Subura. Fun was public here. Unlike Beatrice's cloistered poems, these women's jests were village theatre, tempered by the church's St. Anne prayers, but not silenced. The humour hits when a bucket splashes your hem and Alina quips you're baptized by well water like a medieval stand-up routine. Daily life offered play in small doses, a rhyme sung while spinning, a mock argument over who churned better butter, moments as vital as Heweis's childbirth hymns. You spot a carved cross on a woman's neck, a nod to faith's grip, but her wink at a passing miller like Gillian's dove brooch hints at mischief in the mundane. The village darkens as torches flare, and you feel the pulse of this world where women's fun was a thread in the tapestry of toil, unlike Rome's grand frescoes or Sabina's divorce drama. You're starting to see their lives as a dance, balancing work with stolen laughs like Cecily's rue-sprigged steps or Maud's orchard dreams. The church bell tolls, calling for vespers, and you linger by the well, wondering how Alina keeps her spark in this muddy, vibrant grind, and what joys medieval women found when the days labor softened into the firelit, star-streaked medieval night. You're swept into the vibrant swirl of a medieval village festival, the air buzzing with the scent of crushed clover and the smoky tang of roasting mutton as fiddles wail and laughter rings across the green. Torches flare, casting golden light on women in bright kirtles, their hands linked as they spin in a carol, their faces flushed with glee. You're not just watching, you're joining the lively revels where medieval women danced, their steps a joyful defiance of the days. Toil far from the church's somber hymns. The village's nighttime pulse pounds around you, and you're trying not to trip over a stray garland while you dive into this whirl of merriment, hoping you don't step on someone's hem and crash the party. Dancing was a medieval woman's chance to shine, a burst of fun that turned muddy greens into stages, unlike Rome's Bacchanalia's wine-soaked chaos. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, church records, like those from the Diocese of Salisbury, note festivals like May Day or Harvest Home, where women led dances, often in circles or lines, as communal celebrations of seasons or saints. You're grabbing hands with Alina, our well-side jokester, her kirtle swirling as she pulls you into a carol, her grin as bright as the torches. You'd probably stomp her toes, muttering about needing a medieval dance app. But Alina's laughter, like Cecily's rue-sprigged steps, shows dancing was freedom, a moment to shed spinning wheels and churns. Echoing Eleanor's courtly grace, but earthier. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied bells to their ankles, their jingle believed to ward off bad spirits and add flair. A charm louder than Marjorie's love knots. Picture Alina's bells jingling, only for one to fly off mid-spin, beaning a fiddler. You chuckle, imagining it's like a medieval wardrobe malfunction with a soundtrack, unlike Rome's leopard skin revels. Historians still argue whether these dances were pure joy or church-sanctioned outlets, like Gillian's dove brooch, signals. Some say they strengthened village bonds like Alina's hot cockles game. Others think priests tolerated them to curb sins, like Cecily's adultery risks, stricter than Rome's subura trades. You're not sure, but Alina's nimble step suggests she's dancing for herself, not the vicar. You weave through the circle, past a bonfire where women clap and stomp, their voices rising in a bawdy song about a wayward night, as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip. The humour hits when a granny joins in, out-dancing a lad half her age, her cackle echoing Edith's ivy brooch wit. Dances weren't just for youth. Women like Marjorie or Joan swayed too, their steps a shared pulse, unlike Beatrice's cloistered poems. Noble women like Eleanor led pavanes at manor feasts, but here it's raw, with mud on hems and cider in hand, like Zara's foreign bells, but homegrown. You recall Maud's orchard tales. Here, the music's live, a fleeting escape from Hawis's childbirth trials, blessed by St. Anne's distant prayers, but free of her shrine's weight. The fiddle's slow, and Alina pauses, her bells still tinkling, her breath a misty cloud in the night air. You realize these dances were medieval women's heartbeat, a chance to laugh and leap, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Flavia's market quips, but spun in torchlight, not ink. The bonfire's glow dims, the village's spire dark against the stars, and you're starting to feel Alina's spark, her dance a defiance of toil, like Isabel's myrtle crown, or Joan's yellow hood grit. You linger, hands still warm from the carol, wondering what other joys these steps stirred, and how women found fun in the medieval night's wild starlit embrace. You're tucked into the smoky warmth of a medieval village tavern, the air thick with the scent of sour ale and the crackle of a hearth fire spitting embers onto well-trodden rushes. Wooden benches groan under the weight of locals, fishers, weavers, and a one-eyed peddler, their mugs clinking as laughter roars over a woman's tale of a cow outwitting its master. You're not here to sample the brew. You're joining the ale-soaked storytelling nights where medieval women spun yarns, their voices weaving joy and wit into the village's heartbeat, far from the church's solemn chants. The village's nighttime hum fades beyond the warped door, and you're trying not to knock over your clay cup while you soak in this raucous merriment, hoping you don't choke on your ale during a punchline. Tavern storytelling was a medieval woman's stage, where wit outshone toil, a humbler echo of Eleanor's courtly ballads but no less vibrant. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, guild records, like those from York's alewives, show women ran taverns and led storytelling, their tales of tricksters or lovers drawing crowds on feast eves or winter nights. You're listening to Alina, our festival dancer, spin a yarn about a fox duping a monk, her hands waving like a conjurer's, her grin pulling you in. You'd probably snort ale mid-laugh, muttering about needing a medieval stand-up mic. But Alina's tale, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the tavern into a theatre, unlike Rome's elite symposiums or Beatrice's cloistered poems. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tossed dried peas at listeners who dozed during tales, a playful nudge believed to keep spirits lively, as cheeky as Alina's jangling festival bells. Picture Alina pelting a snoring miller only for a pea to bounce into his mug. You'd chuckle, imagining it's like a medieval heckler's revenge, unlike Rome's oyster-fueled banter. Historians still argue whether these nights were true leisure or social glue, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they knit village bonds like Alina's carol dances. Others think they were escapes from labour, tempered by the church's St. Anne prayers, stricter than Rome's Subura gossip. You're not sure, but Alina's fox-monk punchline landing like a well-aimed pea suggests fun was the point, priest or no priest. You lean closer to the fire where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, add tales of ghostly lovers, their voices blending with the men's, as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, but warmer. The humour hits when a young lass mimics the monk's holy indignation, her scowl toppled by a hiccup, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Storytelling wasn't just for alewives, peasant women like Joan, or noble ladies like Matilda. Shared yarns by hearths or manors, their wit a spark like Maud's orchard lessons but louder, free of Heweis's childbirth weight. You recall Cecily's rue-sprigged dance. Here, the stage is words, not steps, a joy as bold as Zara's foreign tales, yet rooted in the village's muddy lanes, unlike Rome's bacchanalia revels. The tavern's glow softens as the fire settles, Alina's tale winding down, her fox outsmarting all, leaving mugs raised in cheers. You realize these storytelling nights were medieval women's canvas, painting laughter over toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Flavia's market jests, but spun in ale light, not silk. The hearth's embers dim, the village's spire dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's fire. Her story's a defiance of the day's grind, like Isabel's myrtle crown or Joan's yellow hood grit. You linger, cup warm in hand, wondering what other tales these women wove, and how their laughter lit the medieval night under its starlit, watchful sky. You're swept into the bustling heart of a medieval manor's great hall, the air rich with the scent of roasted boar, and the sweet tang of spiced hippocras steaming in pewter goblets. Trestle tables groan under platters of bread, cheese, and glistening fruits, while laughter and the clink of knives echo off stone walls draped in tapestries. Women in kirtles and surcoats pass dishes, their faces glowing with the feast's warmth, as a minstrel strums a lute in the corner. You're not here to grab a second helping. You're savouring the communal feasts where medieval women found joy, their shared meals a vibrant thread in village and manor life, far from the church's solemn fasts. The village's night-time hum fades beyond the hall's heavy doors, and you're trying not to knock over a candle while you dive into this hearty merriment, hoping you don't dribble sauce on your borrowed tunic. Feasting was a medieval woman's chance to revel, turning food into fellowship, a humbler echo of Rome's lavish banquets, but no less joyful. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, manorial accounts like those from the English estate of Glastonbury show women organized and attended feasts for harvest, weddings, or saints' days, contributing dishes and labor to communal tables. You're passing a platter of herbed trout to Alina, our tavern storyteller, her kirtle dusted with flour from helping in the kitchen, her grin wide as she praises the cook's skill. You'd probably drop the fish, muttering about needing a medieval Tupperware, but Alina's chatter, like Marjorie's market banter, weaves the feast into a tapestry of laughter, unlike Eleanor's formal solar suppers or Rome's Subura tavern grub. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women hid lucky charms, like a dried apple slice, in feast dishes, believing it brought love or health to the finder, a playful trick as sly as Alina's pea-tossing tales. Picture Alina slipping one in, only for it to end up in your trencher, leaving you puzzled. You'd chuckle, imagining it's like finding a fortune cookie with medieval vibes, unlike Rome's fennel aphrodisiacs. Historians still argue whether feasts were pure fun or social glue, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they strengthened community, like Alina's festival carols. Others think they were duty dressed as joy, with the church's St. Anne prayers looming, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia excess. You're not sure, but Alina's nudge to try the trout suggests she's here for the taste, not the sermon. You settle beside a table where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, share a pie stuffed with pears, their voices blending tales of past feasts with jests about a lord's stingy portions, as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip. The humour hits when a young lass tries carving the boar, her knife slipping to send a chunk flying, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Feasts weren't just for nobles. Village women like Joan or Cecily joined communal boards at harvest, or church ales, their hands passing bread as freely as Maud's orchard daisies, unlike Beatrice's cloistered prayers. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is local, with women like Hawis swapping recipes, their joy a spark free of childbirth's weight, though the church's cross gleams above, tempering mirth like Isabel's myrtle crown. Hall's fire crackles, and Alina offers you a sip of hippocras, its warmth spreading as she toasts the cook, the table cheering. You realize these feasts were medieval women's hearth, a space to savor life's bounty, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Flavia's market wit, but rooted in shared plates, not gold. The torches dim, the village's spire lost in the dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's glow, her feast a defiance of toil's grind, like Cecily's rue-sprigged dance or Joan's yellow hood grit. You linger, trencher full, wondering what other joys these tables held, and how women tasted fun in the medieval night's firelit, star-streaked embrace. You're elbow deep in the bustling chaos of a medieval market square, the air sharp with the scent of fresh herbs, smoked fish, and the earthy tang of wool dyed in vats nearby. Stalls groan under baskets of turnips and bolts of cloth, while women in kirtles haggle with vendors, their voices a lively chorus over the squawk of geese and the clink of coins. You're not here to buy a new cloak. You're joining the banter and bartering where medieval women found fun, their sharp wit, and quick deals turning commerce into a game as lively as any festival carol. The village's morning hum thrums around you, and you're trying not to trip over a stray cabbage while you dive into this vibrant exchange, hoping you don't haggle yourself into buying a dud onion. Market days were a medieval woman's playground, where trading goods sparked laughter and camaraderie, a humbler echo of Flavia's Roman market swagger, but no less spirited. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 13th century, town charters, like those from Bristol, show women as active traders, selling bread, ale or cloth, their stalls a hub for gossip and jests that lighten the day's toil. You're sidling up to Alina, our feast table friend, her kirtle tucked up as she barters a sack of barley for a skein of wool, her quips about the vendors' sheepish prices drawing chuckles. You'd probably offer a penny too many, muttering about needing a medieval price app, but Alina's haggling, like Marjorie's love-knot finesse, turns the market into a stage, unlike Eleanor's solar intrigues or Rome's Subura coin trades. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tossed a pinch of salt over their stall for luck, believing it charmed buyers and kept hagglers honest, a trick as sly as Alina's dried apple feast charm. Picture Alina sprinkling it, only for a gust to blow it into, a neighbour's eye sparking a mock feud. You'd chuckle, imagining it's like a medieval sales pitch gone windy, unlike Rome's fennel hawkers. Historians still argue whether markets were leisure or labour for women, like Gillian's dove brooch signals. Some say they were social, hubs like Alina's tavern tales. Others think they were work dressed as fun, with the church's St. Anne prayers looming, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's grin as she pockets her wool suggests she's playing for joy, not just profit. You weave through the stalls where women like Edith, our ivy-broached storyteller, swap a loaf for a comb, her jest about the baker's crusty heart as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs. The humour hits when a young lass haggles for a ribbon, her earnest offer of 2 eggs and a prayer, met with laughter like Thomas's St. Joseph ring slip. Markets weren't just for peasants. Noblewomen like Matilda sent maids to barter, their coins jingling like Zara's foreign bells. But here it's hands-on, with women like Joan trading pins or Cecily eyeing cloth for a festival kirtle. Unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts, you recall Maud's orchard lessons. Here, the classroom's loud, teaching wit over turnips, free of Huise's childbirth weight, though the church's cross glints nearby, tempering jests like Isabel's myrtle crown. The market's din softens. As noon bells ring, Alina tucking her wool under her arm, her deals sealed with a wink to the vendor. You realize these market exchanges were medieval women's arena, where laughter and deals outshone toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve, or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but grounded in cabbages, not silk. The sun climbs higher, the village's spire casting a shadow, and you're starting to feel Alina's spark, her banter a defiance of the day's grind, like Joan's yellow hood grit or Edith's tail-spinning fire. You linger, hands dusty. From a turnip you didn't mean to grab, wondering what other joys these stalls held, and how women traded fun in the medieval days' noisy, star-bound bustle. You're nestled in the cozy flicker of a medieval manor's solar, the air soft with the scent of lavender strewn on the rush floor and the faint tang of beeswax candles glowing on a carved oak table. Women sit in a circle, their kirtles pooling. Around them, needles flashing as they stitch vibrant threads into linen, their laughter weaving through the hum of a spinning wheel. You're not here to mend a tunic, you're joining the embroidery circles where medieval women found fun, their shared needlework a tapestry of gossip, jests, and sisterhood, far from the church's stern psalms. The village's evening hum drifts through a narrow window, and you're trying not to prick your finger while you dive into this warm chatter, hoping you don't tangle your thread and look like a complete novice. Embroidery was a medieval woman's art and amusement, turning labour into leisure with every stitch, quieter joy than Alina's market banter, but no less lively. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, household inventories like those from the English Paston family show women of all ranks, nobles to merchants, gathered to embroider altar cloths, tapestries, or gowns. Their circles a hub for stories and laughter, unlike Rome's elite fresco painting salons. You're passing a needle to Alina, our market-haggling star, her kirtle patched but neat, her jest about a lord's peacock strut, sparking giggles as she stitches a rose. You'd probably knot your thread, muttering about needing a medieval sewing app, but Alina's nimble fingers, like Marjorie's love-knot craft, make the solar a stage, echoing Eleanor's noble gatherings but homelier, fit for a village dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women hid tiny charms, like a pressed violet, in their embroidery, believing it brought luck or love to the cloth's wearer, a secret as sly as Alina's market salt toss. Picture Alina, tucking one in only for it to slip out, landing in your lap like a floral hot potato. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval Easter egg with romantic vibes, unlike Rome's hidden Cupid statues. Historians still argue whether these circles were true fun or veiled work, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they fostered bonds like Alina's festival carols. Others think they were chores dressed as joy, with the church's St. Anne prayers looming stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's smirk as she pricks a rival's rose stitch suggests she's here for the laughs, not just the linen. You settle closer to the circle, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached tail spinner, embroider a dove, her story of a clumsy suitor as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, the needle punctuating her punchline. The humour hits when a young lass, maybe Maud's sister, misses a stitch, her dragon looking more like a lumpy toad, drawing hoots, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Embroidery wasn't just for nobles. Village women like Joan or Cecily stitched simpler patterns by hearths, their threads tangling with jests, unlike Beatrice's cloistered manuscripts or Hawis's childbirth hymns. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is local, with women swapping thread colours like Maud's orchard daisies, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross glints on a wall, tempering mirth like Isabel's myrtle crown. The solar's candles flicker, and Alina passes you a scrap of linen, daring you to stitch a leaf, her grin a challenge as the circle cheers your wobbly attempt. You realize these embroidery circles were medieval women's hearth, where laughter outshone labor, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but woven in thread, not torchlight. The fire's glow dims, the village's spire dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's warmth, her needle a defiance of toil's grind, like Joan's yellow hood grit, or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, fingers sore from your sad leaf, wondering what other joys these stitches held, and how women threaded fun into the medieval dusk's quiet, star-streaked embrace. You're wandering through the fragrant rows of a medieval manor's herb garden, the air alive with the scent of crushed mint and the soft hum of bees dancing over lavender spikes. Sunlight filters through a trellis of climbing roses, and women in kirtles brush past, their baskets brimming with sage and thyme, their laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. You're not here to harvest parsley, you're joining the leisurely garden strolls where medieval women found fun, their rambles through green plots, a quiet escape from spinning wheels and hearths woven with chatter and delight. The village's afternoon buzz drifts beyond the wattle fence, and you're trying not to trip over a gnarled root while you soak in this verdant joy, hoping you don't trample a prized chamomile patch. Garden strolls were a medieval woman's haven, where nature and gossip bloomed, a gentler pleasure than Alina's festival carols, but no less cherished. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, household records like those from the English manor of Cuxham show women tending walled gardens for herbs, flowers, and vegetables, their time there doubling as leisure with friends or kin, unlike Rome's formal villa courtyards. You're trailing Alina, our embroidery circle star, her kirtle hitched, as she plucks a sprig of rosemary, teasing a friend about its love-stirring scent, her grin as bright as the roses. You'd probably snag your sleeve on a thorn, muttering about needing a medieval gardening glove, but Alina's ramble, like Marjorie's market wit, turns the garden into a playground, echoing Eleanor's noble retreats, but earthier, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied ribbons to garden stakes, believing the breeze carried their wishes for luck or love, a charm as whimsical as Alina's violet-stitched embroidery. Picture Alina knotting a blue ribbon only for a sparrow to steal it for its nest, sparking a mock chase. You'd chuckle, imagining it's like a medieval vision board gone avian, unlike Rome's sacred lettuce offerings. Historians still argue whether these strolls were true fun or veiled work like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they nurtured bonds like Alina's tavern tales. Others think herb gathering was labour dressed as leisure, with the church's St. Anne prayers hovering stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's giggle as she dodges a bee suggests she's here for the joy, not just the sage. You pause by a bed of lavender, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, snip sprigs, her tale of a suitor lost in a rose. May's as sharp as Ellen's well-side quips, her basket a prop for her yarn. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, trips into a mint patch, her herbal bath drawing hoots, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Gardens weren't just for nobles. Village women like Joan or Cecily tended smaller plots. Their strolls a shared delight, unlike Beatrice's cloistered prayers or Heloise's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here the spice is rosemary, with women like Sybil swapping plant lore like Maud's orchard lessons. Their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross looms beyond, tempering mirth, like Isabel's myrtle crown. The garden's buzz softens as the sun dips, Alina tucking her rosemary into her basket, her ribbon wish still fluttering on a stake. You realize these strolls were medieval women's sanctuary, where laughter outgrew toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve, or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but rooted in earth, not silk. The trellis's shadow lengthens the village's spire, faint in the dusk, and you're starting to feel Alina's ease, her garden a defiance of the day's grind, like Joan's yellow hood grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, hands brushing lavender, wondering what other joys these plots held, and how women plucked fun from the medieval day's green, star-bound embrace. You're trudging along a dusty medieval trail, the air sharp with the scent of pine and the faint whiff of wood smoke curling from a distant village. Your boots crunch on gravel, and you're surrounded by women in sturdy cloaks, their staffs, tapping as they chatter and sing, their faces lit with the thrill of a journey to a holy shrine. You're not just out for a hike, you're joining the pilgrimage adventures where medieval women found fun, their treks to sacred sites, a blend of faith, fellowship, and a chance to escape the daily grind, far from the manor's hearth. The village's hum fades behind the rustle of leaves, and you're trying not to trip over a root while you dive into this spirited quest, hoping you don't lag behind and become the group's straggler joke. Pilgrimages were a medieval woman's road trip where devotion met delight, a bolder escape than Alina's garden strolls, but still woven with community. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, pilgrimage accounts like those in the Canterbury Tales show women from all ranks, peasants to nobles, travelling to shrines like St. Thomas Becket's or Compostela, their journeys mixing prayer with laughter and tales, unlike Rome's elite temple visits. You're walking beside Alina, our rosemary-plucking friend, her cloak patched, but her grin wide as she swaps a story about a pilgrim's lost shoe with a merchant's wife, her voice bright as the trail's dappled light. You'd probably twist an ankle, muttering about needing medieval hiking boots, but Alina's chatter, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the path into a stage, echoing Eleanor's noble quests, but dustier, fit for a village wanderer. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women pinned scallop shells to their cloaks, a badge of pilgrimage believed to ward off bandits and spark tavern discounts. A charm as practical as Alina's garden ribbons. Picture Alina pinning hers only for it to catch on a branch, sparking a mock saintly curse. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval backpack patch gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred sistrums. Historians still argue whether pilgrimages were leisure or duty for women, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they offered freedom, like Alina's tavern tales. Others think they were faith-bound chores with the church's saint, and prayers guiding every step, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's skip as she dodges a puddle suggests she's here for the adventure, not just the shrine. You pause by a stream where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, share a crust of bread, her tale of a pilgrim outwitting. A toll-keeper as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her shell badge glinting. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud maybe, splashes her cloak crossing the stream, her holy bath drawing hoots, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Pilgrimages weren't just for nobles. Village women like Joan or Cecilie joined. Local treks to lesser shrines, their steps a shared joy, unlike Beatrice's cloistered prayers or Hawice's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is the trail, with women like Sybil swapping saintly lore like Maud's orchard lessons, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross looms in every wayside chapel, tempering mirth like Isabel's myrtle crown. The trail climbs, and Alina offers you a sip from her water skin, her scallop shell clinking as she toasts the shrine ahead, the group's song rising like a carol's echo. You realize these pilgrimages were medieval women's odyssey, where laughter outran toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve, or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but carved in dust, not silk. The forest darkens, the village's spire long gone, and you're starting to feel Alina's thrill, her trek a defiance of routine's grind, like Joan's yellow hood grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, boots dusty, wondering what other joys these paths held and how women walked. Fun into the medieval dusk's winding, star-bound embrace. You're sprawled in the soft glow of a medieval cottage's hearth, the air warm with the scent of fresh-baked bread and the faint crackle of logs spitting embers onto a swept stone floor. Women gather on rush mats, their kirtles tucked as they hum ballads, their voices weaving through the clatter of a loom, and a child's giggle from a corner. You're not here to warm your toes, you're joining the musical world where medieval women sang for fun, their melodies a thread of joy, in fields, homes and festivals, far from the church's Latin chants. The village's evening hush wraps the wattle walls, and you're trying not to knock over a clay jug while you soak in this soulful chorus, hoping you don't hum off key and ruin the harmony. Singing was a medieval woman's heartbeat, turning toil into delight, a humbler echo of Eleanor's courtly lutes, but no less vibrant, unlike Rome's formal hymns. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, literary sources like the Roman de la Rose describe women singing work songs in fields or ballads at home. Their melodies, from love tunes to harvest chants, passed down orally, binding communities. You're swaying with Alina, our pilgrim adventurer, her kirtle swaying as she leads a ballad about a maiden and a knight, her voice clear as she teases a friend for missing a note. You'd probably croak a wrong verse, muttering about needing medieval karaoke. But Alina's song, like Marjorie's market quips, makes the cottage a stage, fit for a village dusk, echoing Gillian's dove brooch flirtations, but purer, free, of Rome's bacchanalia wine. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women sang walking songs, rhythmic chants to pound cloth, believing the beat charmed the fabric to softness, a trick as lively as Alina's scallop shell pilgrimage badge. Picture Alina thumping a tune, only for her friend to miss a beat, tangling the cloth like a bad dance move. You chuckle, imagining it's a medieval workout playlist gone rogue, unlike Rome's sistrum rattles, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank goodness. Historians still argue whether singing was leisure or labour's sidekick, like Alina's market salt toss. Some say it knit bonds like her festival carols. Others think it was work's rhythm, with the church's St. Anne prayers hovering, stricter than Rome's Subura revels. You're not sure, but Alina's soaring chorus lifting the room suggests she's singing for her soul, not just the cloth. You settle closer to the hearth, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, hum a lullaby, her voice soft but rich, her tale of a lost lover woven into the melody as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, but tenderer. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, tries a high note, her squeak sparking giggles, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Singing wasn't just for peasants. Noblewomen like Matilda sang at feasts, their chansons echoing Zara's foreign tales, but here it's raw, with voices blending like Maud's orchard daisies, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Heloise's childbirth hymns. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the Spices' song, with women like Cecily crooning love ballads by looms, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross glints outside, tempering mirth like Isabel's myrtle crown. The fire's glow dims, and Alina's ballad fades, her voice lingering as she passes you a crust to nibble, the cottage quiet, save for the loom's click. You realize these songs were medieval women's wings lifting hearts above toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Flavia's market jests, but spun in melody, not silk. The embers settle, the village's spire dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's warmth, her singing a defiance of routine's grind, like Joan's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, bread crumbling in hand, wondering what other joys these melodies held and how women sang, fun into the medieval night's hearth-lit, starbound embrace. You're perched on a wobbly stool in a medieval manor's solar, the air soft with the scent of beeswax candles and the faint must of oak panels warmed by a crackling hearth. A checkered board sits on a trestle table, its carved pieces gleaming, as women lean in, their kirtles rustling, their laughter sharp over the clack of dice and the slide of wooden knights. You're not here to polish the silver, you're diving into the world of board games where medieval women found fun. Their matches of chess, tables, or dice a lively duel of wits and chance, far from the church's solemn vespers. The village's evening hush seeps through a shuttered window, and you're trying not to knock over a pawn while you join this spirited contest, hoping you don't blunder into a checkmate and look like a complete novice. Board games were a medieval woman's arena where strategy met merriment, a quieter thrill than Alina's ballad singing, but no less engaging, unlike Rome's high-stakes gambling dens. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 13th century, court inventories like those from the French royal household show women playing chess and tables, medieval backgammon, at manors and taverns. Their games a social pastime that crossed class lines, from nobles to merchants. You're facing Alina, our singing star, her kirtle tucked as she slides a tableman, her smirk daring you to roll the dice, her jest about your knightly strategy sparking giggles. You'd probably fumble the dice, muttering about needing a medieval game guide, but Alina's move, like Marjorie's market haggling, turns the solar into a battlefield, echoing Eleanor's noble intrigues, but cozier, fit for a village dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women marked their game pieces with tiny crosses, believing it blessed their luck, a charm as sly as Alina's walking song rhythm. Picture Alina carving hers, only for it to slip and nick the board, prompting a mock curse on her opponent's dice. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval gamer tag gone awry, unlike Rome's engraved bronze mirrors, but not those. Crocodile dung potions, thankfully. Historians still argue whether these games were pure fun or social flexing, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they honed wits, like Alina's market banter. Others think they were status displays, with the church's St. Anne prayers looming stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's triumphant cackle as she captures your piece suggests she's playing for glory, not just grace. You lean closer to the board, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, nudge a chess pawn, her tale of outsmarting, a lord at tables as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, her cross-marked knight a prop for her yarn. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, rolls snake eyes, her groan louder than a dropped loom shuttle, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Games weren't just for nobles. Village women like Joan or Cecily played dice by hearths, or taverns, their bets small but spirited, unlike Beatrice's cloistered manuscripts or Hawis's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is strategy, with women like Sybil swapping dice tricks like Maud's orchard lessons, their fun a spark free of Agnes' annulment woes, though the church's cross glints on a wall, tempering jests like Isabel's myrtle crown. The solar's candles dim, and Alina offers you the dice, her cross-marked tableman poised as she dares you to beat her, the circle cheering your shaky roll. You realize these board games were medieval women's chessboard, where laughter outplayed toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but carved in wood, not silk. The hearth's glow fades, the village's spire, dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's glee, her game a defiance of routine's grind, like Joan's yellow hood grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, dice warm in hand, wondering what other joys these boards held, and how women rolled fun into the medieval night's firelit, star-bound embrace. You're standing in the crisp dawn of a medieval manor's meadow, the air alive with the scent of dew-soaked grass and the faint musk of leather as falcons rustle on their perches, their bells jingling softly. Hooves thud in the distance, and noble women in velvet cloaks, their faces flushed with excitement, adjust gloves and call to their birds, ready to chase prey across the fields. You're not here to muck out stables. You're joining the hawking hunts where medieval women found fun. Their pursuit of game with falcons a thrilling blend of skill and spectacle, far from the village's daily churn. The manor's morning hum fades behind the cry of a hawk soaring overhead, and you're trying not to trip on a tussock while you dive into this wild chase, hoping you don't spook a bird and earn a noble glare. Hawking was a medieval noblewoman's sport where mastery over nature sparked joy, a bolder thrill than Alina's board game duels but reserved for the elite, unlike Rome's gladiatorial crowds. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 13th century, treatises like Frederick II's De Arte Venandi detail noblewomen across Europe training falcons for hunts, their outings, often on horseback, a display of status and leisure, as noted in court chronicles. You're trailing Eleanor, our solar queen, from past tales, her cloak embroidered with hawks, her voice sharp as she coaxes her peregrine, gerfalcon, to strike a pheasant, her grin fierce. You'd probably tangle your reins, muttering about needing a medieval falconry manual, but Eleanor's command, like Marjorie's market finesse, turns the meadow into an arena, echoing Alina's festival carols, but grander, fit for a noble's dawn. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women named their falcons after lovers or saints, believing it gave the bird extra speed, a charm as bold as Alina's cross-marked dice. Picture Eleanor calling St. Agnes to her hawk, only for it to dive at a rabbit instead, prompting a mock sigh. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval pet with a crush, unlike Rome's sacred geese. But not those crocodile dung potions, thankfully. Historians still argue whether hawking was pure sport or social flexing, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say it showcased skill, like Edith's tail spinning. Others think it was a status ritual, with the church's St. Anne prayers distant but present, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Eleanor's steady gaze as gerfalcon soars suggests she's hunting for thrill, not just prestige. You pause by a hedgerow where women like Matilda, a noble cousin, praise their goshawks, their tales of near misses with quarry as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, their bells a jingling chorus. The humour hits when a young lady, Maud's noble kin perhaps, fumbles her glove, her hawk eyeing her like she's the prey, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring slip. Hawking was elite. Village women like Joan or Cecily might watch but rarely joined. Their fun in markets or songs, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Heloise's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales? Here, the spice is feathers, with women like Sybil marvelling at the birds, their joy a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes. though the church's cross looms in a distant chapel, tempering mirth like Isabel's myrtle crown. The meadow's mist lifts, and Eleanor's hawk returns, talons empty, but her laugh undimmed, offering you a glance at Gerfalcon's keen eyes as the group remounts. You realize these hawking hunts were medieval noblewomen's skyward dance, where laughter outflew toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged steps, but soared on wings, not silk. The sun climbs the village's spire, faint beyond, and you're starting to feel Eleanor's rush, her hunt, a defiance of courtly constraints, like Joan's yellow hood grit or Edith's ivy brooch spark. You linger, hands damp from dew, wondering what other joys these flights held, and how women chased fun in the medieval dawn's open, star-bound embrace. You're huddled in the smoky glow of a medieval village cottage, the air thick with the scent of burning oak, and the warm, yeasty tang of fresh-baked bread cooling on a trestle table. The hearth fire crackles, casting dancing shadows on mud-plastered walls where women sit on rush mats, their kirtles tucked, their voices weaving tales of ghosts, knights, and cunning maids. You're not here to dance socks, you're joining the storytelling nights, where medieval women spun yarns for fun, their firelit tales a vibrant escape from the day's toil, far from the church's Latin sermons. The village's nighttime hush wraps the wattle walls, and you're trying not to knock over a clay mug while you soak in this enchanted chatter, hoping you don't snort too loudly at a twist and give away your tourist vibe. Storytelling by the hearth was a medieval woman's art, where wit and wonder turned long nights into delight, a cozier thrill than Eleanor's hawking hunts, but no less captivating, unlike Rome's epic recitals. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, oral tradition records like those noted in the Gesta Romanorum show women sharing folk tales and fablio, bawdy or moral stories, at home or communal gatherings, their narratives binding families and neighbors. You're listening to Alina, our chess-playing songbird, spin a tale of a fox outwitting a greedy lord, her hands gesturing like a puppeteer, her grin pulling you into the story. You'd probably spill your ale, muttering about needing the medieval audiobook app, but Alina's yarn, like Marjorie's market quips, makes the cottage a theatre, echoing Edith's tavern tales but softer, fit for a village midnight. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tossed a hazel twig into the fire before. A tale, believing its pop, sparked the story's magic, a charm as lively as Alina's cross-marked dice. Picture Alina throwing one, only for it to flare and singe her sleeve, prompting a mock witch's curse. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval special effect gone haywire, unlike Rome's sacred incense, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether these nights were pure leisure or social glue, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they knit community like Alina's walking songs. Others think they were labour's pause, with the church's St. Anne prayers lingering, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's foxtail punchline, landing like a well-timed jab, suggests she's weaving for joy, not just duty. You scoot closer to the fire, where women like Joan, not our yellow-hooded friend, but a weaver, add a story of a haunted mill, her voice low and eerie, her tale as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, the twigs pop, punctuating her ghost's wail. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, jumps at a log's crack, spilling her mug, her blush, rivaling Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Storytelling wasn't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda shared romances at manor hearths, their tales echoing Zara's foreign yarns, But here it's raw, with women like Cecily spinning bawdy fablio by looms, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Haweis's childbirth trials. You recall Sybil's market allure. Here, the spices words, with women like Maud weaving morals or mischief like her orchard daisies, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross looms outside, tempering jests. Like Isabel's myrtle crown, the hearth's glow dims, and Alina's fox outsmarts the lord, her tail ending with a flourish as she passes you a crust to nibble, the cottage quiet, save for a child's snore. You realize these storytelling nights were medieval women's canvas, painting laughter over darkness, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cececi's rue-sprigged dance, but spun in firelight, not silk. The embers settle, the village's spire. Dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's magic. Her story's a defiance of winter's chill, like Joan's brothel grit or Edith's ivy brooch spark. You linger, bread crumbling in hand, wondering what other tales these flames held, and how women wove fun into the medieval night's hearth-lit, star-bound embrace. You're standing on a sun-dappled village green, the air buzzing with the scent of fresh-cut grass and the sweet tang of apple blossoms drifting from a nearby orchard. A tall maypole looms, its ribbons fluttering in the breeze, as women in bright kirtles weave through the crowd, their laughter mingling with the trill of pipes and the thump of a tabor. You're not just watching, you're joining the maypole revels where medieval women danced for fun, their springtime steps a vibrant celebration of renewal far from the church's sombre Lent. The village's midday hum pulses around you, and you're trying not to trip over a ribbon while you dive into this joyful whirl, hoping you don't tangle the whole pole and become the day's laughingstock. Maypole dances were a medieval woman's springtime joy, where movement and mirth bloomed, a livelier escape than Alina's fireside tales, but woven with the same village spirit. Unlike Rome's formal festival rites, a mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, church wardens' accounts, like those from King's Lynn, note May Day celebrations where women led ribbon dances around decorated poles, their steps symbolizing fertility and community, often tied to local saints' feasts. You're grabbing a green ribbon beside Alina, our tail-spinning chess master, her kirtle pinned with daisies, her grin daring you to keep up as she weaves under and over, her giggle bright as the blossoms. You'd probably knot the ribbon, muttering about needing a medieval choreography app. But Alina's dance, like Marjorie's market wit, turns the green into a stage, echoing Eleanor's courtly pavanes but muddier, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tucked a sprig of hawthorn into their hair, believing its white blooms ensured a suitor by summer, a charm as bold as Alina's hazel twig storytelling spark. Picture Alina pinning hers, only for it to snag another dancer's ribbon, sparking a mock maypole duel. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval flower crown with drama, unlike Rome's sacred garlands, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether maypole revels were pure fun or ritualized bonding, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they strengthened village ties, like Alina's walking songs. Others think the church tolerated them to channel youth, with St. Anne's prayers hovering, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's deft weave, dodging a clumsy lad, suggests she's dancing for glee, not just custom. You weave through the ribbons, past a bonfire where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, clapped the beat, her jest about a lord's 2 left feet, as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her hawthorn sprig bobbing. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, trips mid-step, her ribbon tangling like a bad loom thread, her blush rivaling Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Maypole dances weren't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda joined manor. Versions, their silks swirling like Zara's foreign bells. But here it's raw, with kirtles flecked with grass, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Hawis's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance? Here, the spices ribbons, with women like Cecily or Sybil weaving patterns like Maud's orchard daisies, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross glints nearby, tempering mirth like Isabel's myrtle crown. The pipes swell, and Alina tugs your ribbon, her hawthorn sprig, secure as the maypoles weave, tightens, the crowd cheering the final knot, a tapestry of colour and sweat. You realize these maypole revels were medieval women's spring song, where laughter outshone winter's chill, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Flavia's market jests, but spun in ribbons, not silk. The sun climbs higher, the village's spire casting a faint shadow, and you're starting to feel Alina's thrill, her dance a defiance of toil's grind, like Joan's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, ribbon still, in hand, wondering what other joys these weaves held, and how women danced fun into the medieval day's bright star-bound embrace. You're standing on the edge of a medieval village green, the air crisp with the scent of trampled grass and the faint tang of oiled leather as women adjust their bowstrings, their kirtles tucked for ease, their eyes narrowed on straw targets, propped across the field. The twang of arrows and bursts of laughter mingle with the distant lowing of cattle, and a crowd cheers each shot, mugs of ale in hand. You're not here to herd sheep. You're joining the archery contests where medieval women found fun, their aim with bows a thrilling test of skill and camaraderie, far from the church's quiet pews. The village's afternoon hum buzzes around you, and you're trying not to trip over a quiver while you dive into this lively sport, hoping you don't fumble an arrow and look like a total rookie. Archery was a medieval woman's chance to flex. Her prowess, a spirited pastime less elite than Eleanor's hawking hunts, but no less exhilarating, unlike Rome's chariot race bets. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, English assize records, like those from Yorkshire, note women participating in village archery contests, often mandated for defence, but embraced as recreation, with local fairs hosting women's shoots alongside men's. You're gripping a bow beside Alina, our maypole ribbon weaver, her kirtle rolled at the sleeves, her grin fierce as she nocks an arrow, teasing you to aim better than a drunk tanner. You'd probably twang the string, muttering about needing a medieval archery app, but Alina's shot, like Marjorie's market banter, turns the green into an arena, echoing Gillian's dove brooch flirtations, but bolder, fit for a village dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied a feather to their bow, believing it guided arrows true, a charm as sly as Alina's hawthorn sprig dance. Picture Alina knotting a goose feather only for it to flutter off mid-shot, landing on a judge's hat like a cheeky salute. You'd chuckle imagining it's a medieval targeting hack gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred amulets. But not those. Crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether women's archery was sport or duty, like Alina's tail-spinning knights. Some say it was joyful competition, like her walking songs. Others think it served militia training, with the church's St. Anne prayers distant but present, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's steady aim, splitting a target's edge, suggests she's here for the thrill, not just the law. You step to the line where women like Edith our ivy-broached elder, draw their bows, her quip about a rival's, wandering arrow as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, her feather charm bobbing. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, looses an arrow skyward, her star-bound shot drawing hoots, like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Archery wasn't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda practiced in manor fields, their silk sleeves pinned like Zara's foreign belles. But here it's gritty, with kirtles flecked with mud, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Hawice's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spice is arrows, with women like Cecily or Sybil trading aiming tips like Maud's orchard lessons, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross looms beyond, tempering cheers like Isabel's myrtle crown. The crowd roars as Alina's arrow thuds true, her feather charm gone but her laugh undimmed, offering you a bow to try, the green alive with claps and jeers. You realize these archery contests were medieval women's battlefield, where laughter outshot toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but flown on fletched shafts, not silk. The sun dips, the village's spire, casting a shadow, and you're starting to feel Alina's rush, her aim a defiance of routine's grind, like Joan's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, bow heavy in hand, wondering what other joys these targets held, and how women shot fun into the medieval days' open, star-bound embrace. You're tucked into a quiet corner of a medieval manor's library, the air heavy with the scent of aged vellum and the soft glow of beeswax candles flickering on a carved oak stand. Shelves sag under manuscripts, their pages edged with gold, as women in kirtles lean close, their whispers mingling with the rustle of turning leaves and the faint creak of a settle. You're not here to dust the tomes, you're joining the manuscript reading where medieval women found fun, their shared tales from illuminated books, a gentle escape into worlds of knights, saints and lovers, far from the village's daily churn. The village's evening hush seeps through a leaded window, and you're trying not to smudge a page while you dive into this whispered delight, hoping you don't mispronounce a Latin name and sound like a total novice. Manuscript reading was a medieval woman's portal where stories sparked joy and wonder, a subtler thrill than Alina's archery contests, but no less enchanting, unlike Rome's public orations. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, household records like those of the Paston family show noble and merchant women gathering to read or hear books of hours, romances, or saints' lives. Their shared sessions a pastime that blended devotion and entertainment. You're sitting beside Alina, our bow-wielding storyteller, her kirtle brushing the floor as she traces a miniature of a knight and lady, her voice soft as she reads their love vow, her grin teasing you to take a turn. You'd probably stammer over chivalry, muttering about needing a medieval audiobook. But Alina's reading, like Marjorie's market wit, turns the library into a stage, echoing Eleanor's solar embroidery, but dreamier, fit for a village dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women marked favourite pages with pressed clover, believing it kept the story's magic alive, a charm as tender as Alina's maypole hawthorn sprig. Picture Alina tucking one in, only for it to slip out, fluttering onto your lap like a leafy bookmark gone rogue. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval post-it with fairy vibes, unlike Rome's engraved tablets, but not those crocodile dung potions, thankfully. Historians still argue whether reading was leisure or a status flex, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say it fostered bonds like Alina's walking songs. Others think it was elite education, with the church's St. Anne prayers looming stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's gleam as she lingers on a lover's oath suggests she's lost in the tale, not just showing off. You lean closer to the manuscript where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, point to a saint's miracle. Her quip about the knight's love-sick blundering as sharp as Ellen's well-side gossip, her clover-marked page a prop for her jest. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, misreads quest as jest, turning a hero's tale into a comedy, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Reading wasn't just for nobles. Village women like Joan or Cecily heard tales read aloud in churches or homes, their ears catching romances like Maud's orchard lessons, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Heloise's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is ink, with women like Sybil savouring a dragon-slaying scene, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross glints outside, tempering whispers like Isabel's myrtle crown. The candles dim, and Alina passes you the book, her clover bookmark secure as she dares you to read a line, the group's soft giggles urging you on. You realize these manuscript readings were medieval women's window, where laughter outshone toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cececi's rue-sprigged dance, but woven in vellum, not silk. The fire's glow fades, the villages spire dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's wonder, her reading a defiance of routine's grind, like Joan's yellow hood grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, fingers grazing the page, wondering what other joys these tales held and how women read fun into the medieval night's candle-lit, star-bound embrace. You're perched on a grassy knoll by a medieval village churchyard, the air buzzing with the scent of crushed clover and the faint tang of mulled ale passed in wooden mugs. A makeshift stage creaks under players in patched robes, their voices booming tales of saints and devils as women in kirtles crowd close, their laughter and gasps mingling with the jangle of a minstrel's bells. You're not here to say a quick prayer. You're watching the feast day plays where medieval women found fun, their delight in miracle dramas a lively blend of faith and theatre, far from the manor's quiet looms. The village's afternoon hum thrums around you, and you're trying not to trip over a stray stool while you dive into this vibrant spectacle, hoping you don't clap at the wrong moment and look like a stage-struck outsider. Feast day plays were a medieval woman's front-row ticket to wonder, where stories sprang to life, a louder joy than Alina's manuscript readings, but woven with village spirit, unlike Rome's grand amphitheatre shows. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, guild records, like those from York's Corpus Christi cycles, show women attending and sometimes helping stage mystery or miracle plays on saints' days, their performances of biblical tales, or saintly deeds drawing crowds to churchyards or greens. You're elbow to elbow with Alina, our book-loving archer, her kirtle dusted with grass, her eyes wide as a player, dressed as St. George slays a cloth dragon, her giggle at his wobbly, sword-sparking cheers. You'd probably applaud too soon, muttering about needing a medieval playbill, but Alina's glee, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the stage into a festival, echoing Eleanor's courtly masks but earthier, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tossed dried beans at players for luck, believing it blessed the tale's moral, a charm as playful as Alina's clover-marked manuscript pages. Picture Alina throwing one only to bean a devil's horn, prompting a mock scowl from the player. You chuckle, imagining it's a medieval theatre snack gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred offerings, but not those crocodile dung potions, thankfully. Historians still argue whether these plays were pure fun or church propaganda, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they sparked joy, like Alina's maypole dances. Others think they taught piety, with the church's St. Anne prayers, guiding every line stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's gasp as St. George triumphs suggests she's hooked on the drama, not just the sermon. You shift on the knoll, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, clutch their mugs, a quip about the dragon's floppy tail as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her bean toss a cheer for the saint's victory. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud, drops her beans, sparking a scramble like kids chasing a runaway ball, her blush rivaling Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Plays weren't just for nobles. Village women like Nora or Cecily packed churchyards, their cheers echoing Joan's market stall or Sybil's alehouse chatter, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales here, the spices grease paint, with women like Maud swapping plot guesses like her orchard dreams, their fun a spark free of Agnes's gossip woes, though the church's spire looms, blessing the stage like Isabel's sanctity vow. The players bow, and Alina passes you a sip of ale, her bean stash low, but her grin wide, urging you to cheer as the dragon limps off stage, the crowd roaring. You realize these feast day plays were medieval women's theatre, where laughter outshone toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but staged in faith, not silk. The sun dips, the village's spire casting a shadow, and you're starting to feel Alina's thrill, her play a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, mug warm in hand, wondering what other joys these dramas held, and how women clapped fun into the medieval day's bright star-bound embrace. You're sprawled on a woven blanket by a medieval riverbank, the air alive with the scent of damp reeds and the gentle gurgle of water lapping at pebbled shores. Sunlight dances on the current, and women in kirtles lounge nearby, their baskets, spilling bread, cheese, and early apples, their laughter mingling with the chirp of sparrows overhead. You're not here to fish, you're joining the river picnics, where medieval women found fun, their shared meals by water a tranquil escape, from looms and churns woven with chatter and ease. The village's afternoon hum drifts from distant fields, and you're trying not to knock over a jug of cider while you soak in this lazy delight, hoping you don't get a crumbly bit of cheese stuck in your teeth. River picnics were a medieval, woman's oasis where food and friendship bloomed, a quieter joy than Alina's feast day plays, but no less cherished, unlike Rome's lavish riverside banquets. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, manorial records like those from the English estate of Bury St. Edmunds show women gathering by rivers or streams for communal meals during harvest breaks or saints' days. Their picnics a chance to rest and revel. You're passing a hunk of rye bread to Alina, our play-watching archer, her kirtle grass-stained, her grin wide as she trades a slice of apple for your cheese, her quip about a greedy gull. Overhead, sparking giggles. You'd probably drop the bread in the river, muttering about needing a medieval picnic basket. But Alina's banter, like Marjorie's market wit, turns the bank into a haven, echoing Eleanor's manor feasts but simpler, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women floated tiny reed boats with candles on the water, believing the light carried wishes for health or love, a charm as tender as Alina's bean toss at the plays. Picture Alina setting one afloat only for a duck to nab it, prompting a mock pirate quack chase. You chuckle, imagining it's a medieval witchcraft gone foul, unlike Rome's sacred river offerings. But not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether picnics were true leisure or social bonding, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they strengthened ties like Alina's maypole weaves. Others think they were labour's pause, with the church's St. Anne prayers lingering, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's sprawl, munching an apple, suggests she's here for the breeze, not just the break. You settle closer to the blanket, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, share a wedge of cheese, her tale of a picnic spoiled by a runaway pig, as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her reed boat bobbing safely. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, spills cider on her kirtle, her river christening, drawing hoots like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Picnics weren't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda held grander versions by estate streams, their silk spread like Zara's foreigny bells, but here it's raw, with kirtles flecked with crumbs, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spice is apples, with women like Cecilie or Sybil swapping recipes like Maud's orchard lessons. Their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms a crop. The river, tempering mirth like Isabel's sanctity vow. The river's gurgle softens as the sun dips, Alina offering you a sip of cider, her reed boat flickering as she toasts the day, the group's chatter a gentle hum like a carol's echo. You realize these river picnics were medieval women's sanctuary, where laughter outshone toil like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but savoured in bread, not silk. The shadows lengthen, the village's spire, faint in the dusk. And you're starting to feel Alina's ease, her picnic, a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, cider tart on your tongue, wondering what other joys these banks held and how women tasted fun in the medieval days' flowing starbound embrace. You're tucked into the bustling warmth of a medieval village guild hall, the air alive with the scent of fresh wool and the soft clack of wooden needles knitting through skeins of dyed thread. Beams overhead creak under the weight of drying. Yarn and women in kirtles crowd trestle tables, their fingers flashing as they knit, sew or spin, their laughter weaving through the hum of a distaff's whirl. You're not here to mend a sock. You're joining the needlework guilds where medieval women found fun, their lively workshops a vibrant blend of craft and camaraderie, far from the church's silent pews. The village's afternoon hum drifts through an open shutter, and you're trying not to tangle your yarn while you dive into this spirited bustle, hoping you don't drop a stitch and look like a complete amateur. Needlework guilds were a medieval woman's haven where skill met. Merriment, a busier joy than Alina's river picnics, but no less heartfelt, unlike Rome's elite weaving looms. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, guild records, like those from London's weavers, show women forming informal needlework groups, often under church or civic oversight, to craft for markets or charity, their sessions doubling as social gatherings filled with jests and songs. You're passing a skein of blue wool to Alina, our picnic-loving archer, her kirtle dusted with lint, her grin wide as she teases a friend about a lopsided scarf, her needle a blur. You'd probably knot your yarn, muttering about needing a medieval knitting app, but Alina's craft, like Marjorie's market deals, turns the Guildhall into a stage, echoing Eleanor's embroidery circles, but louder, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tucked a sprig of thyme into their work baskets, believing its scent sharpened their stitches and brought luck, a charm as sly as Alina's reed boat candles. Picture Alina slipping one in, only for it to snag her yarn, sparking a mock herbal sabotage feud. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval craft hack gone haywire, unlike Rome's sacred thread offerings, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether these guilds were leisure or labour's extension, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they fostered bonds like Alina's maypole dances. Others think they were work-masked as fun, with the church's St. Anne prayers guiding every stitch, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's cackle as she untangles her thyme suggests she's here for the laughs, not just the scarf. You settle closer to the table, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, knit a mitten, her quip about a rival's holy shawl as sharp as Ellen's wellside barbs, her thyme sprig tucked neatly. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, drops her needle, her scramble under the table like a cat after yarn, her blush rivaling Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Guilds weren't just for artisans. Village women like Joan or Cecilie joined to sew for church alms or fairs, their needles clacking like Maud's orchard chatter, unlike Beatrice's cloistered manuscripts or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is wool, with women like Sybil swapping knitting tricks like Alina's archery tips, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's cross hangs above, blessing the work like Isabel's sanctity vow. The Guildhall's chatter softens as the sun dips, Alina passing you a needle to try a stitch, her thyme-scented basket a challenge as the group cheers your wobbly loop. You realize these needlework guilds were medieval women's workshop, where laughter outspun toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but woven in thread, not silk. The fire's glow dims, the village's spire, faint beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's warmth, her craft a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, fingers sore from your sad stitch, wondering what other joys these skeins held, and how women knitted fun into the medieval days' busy, star-bound embrace. You're gripping the reins in a medieval manor's stable-yard, the air sharp with the scent of fresh hay, and the musky warmth of horses snorting in the morning chill. Hooves clop on cobbles, and noblewomen in velvet cloaks adjust their saddles, their faces alight with the thrill of an open gallop across rolling fields. You're not here to curry a mare, you're joining the horseback rides where medieval noblewomen found fun, their rides for sport, and thrill a bold escape from courtly duties far from the village's muddy lanes. The manor's morning hum fades behind the jingle of bridles, and you're trying not to wobble in your saddle while you dive into this exhilarating chase, hoping you don't slip off and land in a noblewoman's jest. Horseback riding was a medieval noblewoman's rush where speed and skill sparked joy, a grander adventure than Alina's needlework guilds, but exclusive to the elite, unlike Rome's chariot spectacles. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 13th century, court chronicles like those of the Angevin dynasty describe noblewomen riding for pleasure or hunt, their equestrian outings, often with hawks or hounds, a mark of status and leisure, as seen in figures like Eleanor of Aquitaine. You're astride a palfrey beside Eleanor, our hawking huntress, her cloak billowing, her voice crisp as she urges her steed to a canter, teasing you to keep pace or join the snails. You'd probably clutch the saddle, muttering about needing a medieval riding app, but Eleanor's gallop, like Marjorie's market finesse, turns the fields into a playground, echoing Alina's archery contests but loftier, fit for a noble dawn. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied coloured ribbons to their horses' manes, believing the flutter brought speed or luck, a charm as spirited as Alina's time-scented work basket. Picture Eleanor knotting a scarlet ribbon only for it to whip free, startling a hound into a yippee chase. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval horsepower boost gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred horse amulets. But not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether riding was sport or status for noblewomen, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say it was pure thrill, like Edith's tail spinning. Others think it flaunted wealth with the Church's St. Anne prayers, distant but present, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Eleanor's fierce grin as she outpaces a squire suggests she's riding for the wind, not just the court. You sway in the saddle, where women like Matilda, Eleanor's kin, spur their mounts, a quip about a lord's plodding nag as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her ribbon charm streaming. The humour hits when a young lady, Maud's noble cousin perhaps, bounces too hard, her gallant leap nearly a tumble, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Riding was elite. Village women like Joan or Cecilie might groom horses, but rarely rode for sport, their fun in markets or plays, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice's hoofbeats with women like Sybil watching in awe, their joy a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms beyond, blessing the hunt like Isabel's sanctity vow. The fields open wide and Eleanor slows her steed, her ribbon lost but her laugh bright, offering you a nod as your palfrey snorts, the group's hooves a thunderous chorus. You realize these horseback rides were medieval noblewomen's flight, where laughter outran duty, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but carried on hooves, not silk. The sun climbs the village's spire faint, beyond, and you're starting to feel Eleanor's rush, her ride a defiance of court's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, reins tight, wondering what other joys these gallops held, and how women rode fun into the medieval dawn's boundless, star-bound embrace. You're crouched in the flickering glow of a medieval village cottage, the air thick with the scent of crushed herbs and the soft crackle of a hearth fire casting shadows on wattle walls. A small table holds a scatter of pebbles, knotted cords, and a clay bowl of dried lavender, as women in kirtles giggle, their fingers tracing patterns in the dust for playful spells and games. You're not here to sweep the floor. You're joining the charms and games where medieval women found fun. Their light-hearted magic and guessing games a whimsical escape from daily toil, far from the church's stern gaze. The village's nighttime hush wraps the cottage, and you're trying not to knock over the bowl while you dive into this mischievous delight, hoping you don't botch a spell and spark a jest about your witchy skills. Charms and games were a medieval woman's spark of whimsy, where playfulness danced with superstition, a quieter thrill than Eleanor's horseback gallops, but no less enchanting, unlike Rome's sacred oracle rites. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, household accounts and folklore collections, like those in the Gesta Romanorum, note women engaging in divinatory games, casting lots, reading omens, or guessing games at gatherings. Their playful magic, a mix of amusement and hope for luck or love. You're tossing a pebble with Alina, our ribbon-dancing archer, her kirtle tucked, her grin wide as she guesses your throw's meaning, teasing you'll marry a turnip if it lands wrong. You'd probably fumble the toss, muttering about needing a medieval fortune-telling app. But Alina's game, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the cottage into a playground, echoing Gillian's dove brooch flirtations, but cheekier, fit for a village midnight. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied a knotted cord around a pebble, believing its loops trapped good fortune for the game's winner. A charm as sly as Alina's maypole hawthorn sprig. Picture Alina knotting hers, only for it to unravel, prompting a mock curse on her shaky fingers. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval charm bracelet gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred amulets, but not those crocodile dung potions. Thank the saints. Historians still argue whether these games were pure fun or veiled rituals, like Alina's needlework time. Some say they fostered laughter, like her walking songs. Others think they flirted with sin, with the church's saint. And prayers looming, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's cackle as your pebble skids off the table suggests she's here for the giggles, not divine wrath. You scoot closer to the fire where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, shuffle knotted chords, her quip about. A lovesick pebble, as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her lavender charm tucked in her sleeve. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, guesses a cord's knot means riches, only to pull a twig, her pout like Thomas's St. Joseph ring, fumble. Games weren't just for peasants. Noblewomen like Matilda played similar charms. At court, their silks rustling like Zara's foreign belles. But here, it's raw, with kirtles dusted with ash, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spice is lavender, with women like Cecilie or Sybil swapping guessing tricks like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms. Beyond, tempering jests like Isabel's sanctity vow. The fire's glow dims, and Alina passes you a cord to knot, her lavender bowl fragrant as she dares you to guess its fortune. The group's giggles a chorus like a carol's echo. You realize these charms and games were medieval women's spellbook, where laughter outcharmed toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's ruse-sprigged dance, but woven in pebbles, not silk. The embers settle, the village's spire, dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's mischief, her game a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, cord tangled in hand, wondering what other joys these spells held, and how women cast fun into the medieval night's firelit star-bound embrace. You're perched on a wooden stand overlooking a medieval tournament field, the air alive with the scent of trampled earth and the sharp clang of steel as knights in gleaming armor charge with lances, their pennants snapping in the breeze. Banners flutter above, and women in vibrant kirtles and veils wave ribbons, their cheers and gasps blending with the roar of the crowd and the thud of hooves. You're not here to polish a shield. You're joining the courtly tournaments where medieval women found fun, their excitement for colourful jousts a thrilling spectacle of chivalry and sport, far from the village's daily grind. The manor's midday hum fades behind the trumpet's blare, and you're trying not to spill your spiced wine while you dive into this vibrant chaos, hoping you don't cheer for the wrong knight and spark a noblewoman's side-eye. Tournaments were a medieval woman's grand theatre where valor and pageantry sparked joy, a louder thrill than Alina's pebble-tossing charms, but rooted in courtly culture. Unlike Rome's gladiatorial arenas, a mainstream fact grounds us. By the 13th century, chronicles like those of Froissart describe women attending tournaments across Europe, cheering knights in jousts or melees, their presence noted in court records as a mark of social prestige and entertainment. You're waving a green ribbon beside Alina, our spellcasting archer, her kirtle pinned with a rose, her shout for a local knight, Sir Roland, drowning out a rival's fans, her grin as fierce as her bowstring pull. You'd probably wave your ribbon too late, muttering about needing a medieval sports app. But Alina's cheer, like Marjorie's market banter, turns the stands into a festival, echoing Eleanor's hawking hunts, but flashier, fit for a manners. Noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied their ribbons to a knight's lance, believing it lent him strength, a charm as bold as Alina's knotted cord game. Picture Alina knotting hers, only for it to flutter off mid-charge, landing on a squire's helmet like a misplaced love note. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval fan gear gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred tokens, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether tournaments were leisure or status for women, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they were pure spectacle, like Alina's maypole dances. Others think they reinforced courtly roles with the church's St. Anne prayers, distant but present, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's roar, as Roland unhorses a foe, suggests she's here for the clash, not just the court. You lean closer to the stands where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, clutch their mugs, her quip about a knight's clanking pride as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her ribbon waving for a young champion. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud's cousin perhaps, drops her ribbon, her scramble sparking laughs like a stray arrow in Alina's archery contest, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Tournaments were elite. Village women, like Joan or Cecilie, might watch from the field's edge, their fun in markets or plays, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here the spices steal, with women like Sybil cheering a joust like Maud's orchard chatter, their joy a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms beyond, blessing the lists like Isabel's sanctity vow. The trumpets sound, and Alina tugs your sleeve, her rose wilting but her cheer undimmed, urging you to wave your ribbon as Roland readies for another tilt. The crowds roar, a tidal wave. You realize these courtly tournaments were medieval women's arena, where laughter outshone duty, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's ruse-sprigged dance, but clad in armor, not silk. The sun climbs, the village's spire faint beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's pulse, her cheers a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, ribbon flapping, wondering what other joys these jousts held, and how women shouted fun into the medieval day's blazing, starbound embrace. You're sinking into the steamy warmth of a medieval village bathhouse, the air thick with the scent of wood smoke and the herbal tang of chamomile bubbling in wooden tubs. Stone walls glisten with condensation, and women in linen shifts or bare, skin splash and chatter, their laughter echoing off the low ceiling like a lively tavern's hum. You're not here to scrub laundry, you're joining the bathhouse chats where medieval women found fun, their gossip in communal baths as spirited, mix of relaxation and scandal, far from the church's solemn confessions. The village's evening hush seeps through a slatted vent, and you're trying not to slip on the slick floor while you dive into this bubbly banter, hoping you don't splash someone and spark a soapy retort. Bathhouse gatherings were a medieval woman's retreat where cleansing met camaraderie, a wetter joy than Alina's tournament cheers, but no less vibrant, unlike Rome's grand thermae lounges. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 13th century, municipal records like those from Bath, England, show communal bathhouses thriving in towns where women bathed together weekly or monthly, their sessions a social hub for gossip and jests, often regulated by civic guilds. You're soaking beside Alina, our joust-loving spellcaster, her shift clinging, her grin wide as she swaps a tale about a night's tawny tumble, teasing you to spill a secret or face the soap. You'd probably slosh water, muttering about needing a medieval spa guide, but Alina's gossip, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the tub into a stage, echoing Eleanor's solar chatter but splashier, fit for a village dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women floated rose petals in the bath, believing their scent drew good fortune or love, a charm as fragrant as Alina's knotted cord games. Picture Alina tossing a handful, only for one to stick to her nose, prompting a mock petal curse. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval bath bomb gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred oils, but not those crocodile dung potions. Thank the saints. Historians still argue whether bathhouses were leisure or hygiene for women, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they fostered bonds like Alina's walking songs. Others think they were regulated chores with the church's St. Anne prayers lurking, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's cackle as she splashes a friend suggests she's here for the scandal, not just the scrub. You shift in the tub, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, lather their hair, her quip about a squire's slippery honour as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her rose petals drifting lazily. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, slips on the edge, her splash like a cannonball, her blush rivaling Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Bathhouses weren't just for townsfolk. Village women like Joan or Cecilie bathed in simpler setups, their chatter echoing market stalls or plays, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spices steam, with women like Sybil swapping rumours like Maud's orchard chatter. Their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms beyond, blessing the baths, like Isabel's sanctity vow. The steam swirls, and Alina passes you a lump of soap, her rose petals afloat, as she dares you to share a tale. The group's giggles a chorus like a carol's echo. You realize these bathhouse chats were medieval women's cauldron, where laughter bubbled over toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but steeped in water, not silk. The fire's glow dims, the villages spire dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's warmth, her gossip a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, soap slippery in hand, wondering what other joys these tubs held and how women soaked fun into the medieval night's steamy, star-bound embrace. You're swept into the golden chaos of a medieval harvest festival, the air thick with the scent of fresh-cut wheat and the sweet tang of cider bubbling in cauldrons over crackling fires. Sheaves of barley stack high on the village green, and women in kirtles, their faces flushed from reaping, sing harvest songs, their voices soaring over the drone of bagpipes and the thump of dancing feet. You're not here to haul grain. You're joining the crop celebrations where medieval women found fun. Their songs and revels a joyful tribute to the land's bounty, far from the church's somber tithe counts. The village's twilight hum pulses around you, and you're trying not to trip over a sheaf while you dive into this hearty merriment, hoping you don't warble off key and spark a chorus of giggles. Harvest festivals were a medieval woman's triumph, where toil turned to song, a louder joy than Alina's bathhouse gossip, but rooted in the fields, unlike Rome's lavish vintage feasts. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, manorial records, like those from the English estate of Ramsey, show women leading harvest home celebrations, singing work songs and feasting after reaping, their festivals tied to Lammas or Michaelmas, as noted in church wardens' accounts. You're clapping along with Alina, our soapy spellcaster, her kirtle dusted with chaff, her voice belting a song about a golden sheaf maiden, her grin daring you to join the chorus. You'd probably croak a wrong note, muttering about needing a medieval Spotify, but Alina's song, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the green into a stage, echoing Eleanor's tournament cheers but earthier, fit for a village dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women wove a corn dolly from the last sheaf, believing it held the harvest spirit and brought luck, a charm as rustic as Alina's rose-petal bath. Picture Alina shaping one, only for its arm to flop off, prompting a mock spirit sulk. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval mascot gone limp, unlike Rome's sacred grape rites, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether harvest festivals were pure fun or ritualized labor, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they united communities like Alina's walking songs. Others think they were church-sanctioned outlets, with St. Anne's prayers lingering stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's hearty chorus lifting over the pipes suggests she's singing for joy, not just the grain. You sway closer to the fire, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, raise mugs of cider, her quip about a reaper's lazy sickle as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her corn dolly propped proudly. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, spills cider mid-dance, her harvest shower drawing hoots like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Festivals weren't just for peasants. Noblewomen like Matilda joined manor harvest feasts, their silks flecked with chaff like Zara's foreign belles. But here it's raw, with kirtles sweaty from the fields, unlike Beatrice's cloistered crafts or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spice is barley, with women like Cecilie or Sybil sharing song verses like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms, blessing, the feast like Isabel's sanctity vow. The bagpipes drone on, and Alina pulls you into the song, her corn dolly waving as she teaches you a verse. The crowd's voices are tied like a carol's echo. You realize these harvest festivals were medieval women's anthem, where laughter outgrew toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but rooted in sheaves, not silk. The fire's glow dims the village's spire, dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's pulse, her song a defiance of labor's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, voice hoarse from singing, wondering what other joys these fields held, and how women harvested fun in the medieval night's firelit star-bound embrace. You're tucked into the serene hush of a medieval convent's cloister, the air cool with the scent of damp stone and the faint perfume of lavender blooming in a central garden. Arched walkways echo with the soft shuffle of sandals, and none, in grey habits, bend over tables, their fingers tracing gold leaf onto vellum or shaping clay into delicate figures, their quiet laughter mingling with the scratch of quills. You're not here to chant psalms. You're joining the convent crafts, where medieval nuns found fun, their art-making in cloisters a gentle joy woven into prayer, far from the village's bustling green. The village's evening hush seeps through a high window, and you're trying not to smudge a manuscript while you dive into this tranquil creation, hoping you don't blob ink and earn a sisterly tesk. Convent crafts were a medieval nun's quiet delight, where creativity bloomed within cloistered walls, a subtler pleasure than Alina's harvest songs, but no less heartfelt. Unlike Rome's grand mosaic workshops, a mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, monastic records like those from the nunnery of Sion in England show nuns illuminating manuscripts, embroidering vestments, or sculpting small devotional figures, their work for church or charity, doubling as a source of joy, as noted in Abbess's letters. You're brushing gold leaf with Alina, our harvest-singing archer, now a novice nun, her habit neat, her grin soft as she teases your shaky hand, daring you to gild a saint, not a smudge. You'd probably smear the leaf, muttering about needing a medieval art app, but Alina's craft, like Marjorie's market wit, turns the cloister into a studio echoing Eleanor's embroidery circles, but holier, fit for a convent dusk. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some nuns hid tiny flowers in their work, pressed daisies in manuscripts or embroidered violets on alms bags, believing they carried prayers to heaven, a charm as tender as Alina's corn dolly. Picture Alina tucking a daisy, only for it to stick to her quill, prompting a mock, holy mess. You chuckle, imagining it's a medieval doodle gone divine, unlike Rome's sacred frescoes, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank it, the saints. Historians still argue whether these crafts were leisure or sacred duty, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they sparked joy, like Alina's walking songs. Others think they were worship's labour, with the church's St. Anne prayers guiding every stroke, stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's hum, as she gilds a halo, suggests she's creating for love, not just liturgy. You shift closer to the table, where nuns like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, now Sister Edith, shape a clay Madonna, her quip about a sister's lumpy angel as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her violet embroidery gleaming. The humour hits when a young novice, Maud's pious kin perhaps, drops her quill, her ink blot turning a saint's robe midnight blue, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Crafts weren't just for nuns, laywomen like Joan or Cecilie embroidered at home, but convent art, like Beatrice's cloistered bonds, was sacred, unlike Hilda's childbirth trials or Agnes's annulment woes. You recall Zara's foreign tales. Here, the spice is gold leaf, with nuns like Sybil, painting virgins like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark blessed by the church's cross above, unlike Isabel's sanctity vows weight. The cloisters, candles dim, and Alina passes you a brush, her daisy secure as she dares you to gild a star, the nuns' soft hum a chorus like a carol's echo. You realize these convent crafts were medieval nuns' canvas, where laughter gilded prayer, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but etched in vellum, not silk. The garden's glow fades, the village's spire, dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's peace, her art a defiance of cloister's grind. like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, brush trembling, wondering what other joys these works held, and how nuns crafted fun into the medieval night's sacred star-bound embrace. You're weaving through the vibrant sprawl of a medieval village fair, the air buzzing with the scent of roasted hazelnuts and the sharp tang of freshly dyed cloth flapping at market stalls. Jugglers toss flaming torches, their bells jingling, while women in kirtles barter for ribbons and giggle at a mummer's antics, their laughter mingling with the bleat of goats and the drone of a hurdy-gurdy. You're not here to buy a piglet. You're joining the village fairs where medieval women found fun, their revels among jugglers and stalls a lively escape from daily chores, far from the church's quiet cloisters. The village's midday hum pulses around you, and you're trying not to trip over a stray basket while you dive into this colourful chaos, hoping you don't haggle for a trinket and end up with a dud like a medieval tourist. Village fairs were a medieval woman's carnival where spectacle and commerce sparked joy, a louder thrill than Alina's convent crafts, but woven with community spirit, unlike Rome's grand market forums. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, town charters, like those from Norwich, show annual fairs drawing women to trade goods, ale, bread, cloth, and enjoy entertainers, their gatherings noted in guild records as social and economic hubs. You're elbow to elbow with Alina, our gold-leafing novice, her kirtle bright with a new ribbon, her grin wide as she cheers a juggler's torch catch, teasing you to try bartering for a comb. You'd probably offer a bad deal, muttering about needing a medieval eBay, but Alina's haggle, like Marjorie's market wit, turns the fair into a playground, echoing Eleanor's tournament cheers but muddier, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women wore a sprig of fennel pinned to their kirtles, believing it warded off pickpockets and drew good deals, a charm as savvy as Alina's daisy-pressed manuscripts. Picture Alina pinning hers, only for it to fall into a pie stall, prompting a mock fennel theft squabble. You chuckle, imagining it's a medieval security tag gone rogue, unlike Rome's sacred charms, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether fairs were leisure or labour for women, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they were pure fun, like Alina's harvest songs. Others think they mixed trade with duty, with the church's St. Anne prayers lingering, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's cackle as she dodges a mummer's mock sword suggests she's here for the show, not just the shopping. You pause by a stall where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, eye a bolt of wool, her quip about a juggler's flaming ego as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her fennel sprig tucked safely. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, grabs a ribbon too eagerly, her tug toppling a stack of combs, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Fairs weren't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda browsed grander markets, their silks brushing stalls like Zara's foreign belles. But here it's raw, with kirtles flecked with dust, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance? Here, the spices jugglers with women like Cecilie or Sybil, swapping fair tales like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms, blessing, the stalls like Isabel's sanctity vow. The hurdy-gurdy drones, and Alina pulls you to a juggler's circle, her fennel sprig lost, but her cheer bright, urging you to toss a penny for his next trick. The crowds roar a tide like a carol's echo. You realize these village fairs were medieval women's bazaar, where laughter outshone toil like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but spun in torches, not silk. The sun dips, the village's spire faint beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's pulse, her revel a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, penny warm in hand, wondering what other joys these stalls held, and how women bartered fun into the medieval days' noisy, star-bound embrace. You're curled up on a rush mat by a medieval cottage's hearth, the air warm with the scent of burning oak and the faint tang of bread crusts toasting on a griddle. The fire crackles, casting a golden glow on women in kirtles, their faces lit with mischief as they trade riddles, their laughter weaving through the creak of a spinning wheel and the soft patter of sleet outside. You're not here to mend a cloak, you're joining the winter firesides where medieval women found fun, their riddle-sharing by cosy hearths, a clever game of wit and warmth, far from the church's chilly vespers. The village's nighttime hush wraps the wattle walls, and you're trying not to knock over a clay mug while you soak in this playful banter, hoping you don't flub a riddle and become the night's running jest. Winter firesides were a medieval woman's haven where words sparked joy against the cold, a quieter thrill than Alina's village fair jugglers, but no less lively, unlike Rome's grand oratory contests. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, literary collections like the Anglo-Saxon riddles and household accounts show women exchanging riddles during winter evenings, their verbal puzzles, from bawdy to biblical, passed orally, fostering laughter and bonds, as noted in monastic chronicles. You're puzzling over a riddle with Alina, our fair-loving archer, her kirtle patched, her grin sharp as she asks, "What's full of holes yet holds water?" Her tease daring you to guess or freeze in shame. You'd probably blurt, "A bucket," muttering about needing a medieval quiz app. But Alina's riddle, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the hearth into a stage, echoing Eleanor's board game duels but cozier, fit for a village midnight. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tossed a pine cone into the fire before a riddle, believing its pop sharpened wits, a charm as whimsical as Alina's fennel-sprigged fair kirtle. Picture Alina throwing one, only for it to flare and singe a sister's hem, sparking a mock, witless blaze. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval brain boost gone fiery, unlike Rome's sacred incense, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether riddles were pure fun or social sharpening, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they honed minds like Alina's harvest songs. Others think they were winter's distraction, with the church's St. Anne prayers lurking, stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's cackle as you guess, a sponge, suggests she's here for the laughs, not just the logic. You scoot closer to the fire, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, pose a riddle about a key that opens. No lock, her quip about a suitor's dull answer, as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her pine-cone charm tucked away. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, guesses a feather, her logic unravelling into giggles like a dropped skein, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Riddles weren't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda traded them at manor hearths, their silks warmed like Zara's foreign bells. But here it's raw, with kirtles smoky from the fire, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here the spice is wit, with women like Cecily or Sybil swapping puzzles like Maud's orchard chatter. their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms beyond, blessing the hearth like Isabel's sanctity vow. The fire's glow dims, and Alina tosses you a riddle about a cloak that flies, her pine cone pop punctuating her grin as she dares you to solve it. The groups hum a chorus like a carol's echo. You realize these winter firesides were medieval women's mind game, where laughter thawed the cold, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecily's rue-sprigged dance, but spun in words, not silk. The embers settle, the villages spire, dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's mischief. Her riddles a defiance of winter's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tale-spinning spark. You linger, mug warm in hand, wondering what other joys these puzzles held, and how women kindled fun in the medieval night's hearth-lit, star-bound embrace. You're seated on a sun-warmed meadow just outside a medieval village, the air fragrant with the scent of wild daisies and the soft rustle of clover underfoot, as a gentle breeze carries the hum of bees. Women in kirtles sprawl around you, their fingers deftly braiding garlands of roses, violets, and cornflowers, their laughter mingling with the chirp of larks overhead. You're not here to weed the field. You're joining the flower weaving where medieval women found fun, their braiding of festive garlands a joyful craft for adornment at feasts and fairs, far from the church's solemn altars. The village's afternoon hum drifts from nearby cottages, and you're trying not to crush a bloom while you dive into this blooming delight, hoping you don't weave a daisy into a knot and spark a sisterly jest. Flower weaving was a medieval woman's art where nature's colours spun joy, a brighter pleasure than Alina's winter riddles, but woven with the same community spirit, unlike Rome's elaborate floral crowns. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, festival records, like those from the English town of Chester, note women crafting garlands for May Day, Whitsun, or weddings. Their floral creations worn to celebrate seasons or rites, as seen in churchwardens' accounts. You're braiding violets with Alina, our riddle-loving archer, her kirtle flecked with pollen, her grin wide as she teases your clumsy twist, daring you to make a crown fit for a cow. You'd probably tangle the stems, muttering about needing a medieval florist app, but Alina's garland, like Marjorie's market banter, turns the meadow into a workshop, echoing Eleanor's embroidery circles, but wilder, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tucked a sprig of vervain into their garlands, believing it drew love or luck, a charm as delicate as Alina's pine-cone-tossed riddles. Picture Alina slipping one in, only for it to poke her finger, prompting a mock lover's prick. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval bouquet with attitude, unlike Rome's sacred laurels, but not those crocodile dung potions. Thank it, the saints. Historians still argue whether garland weaving was pure fun or ritual craft, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say it fostered bonds like Alina's harvest songs. Others think it served festive duties with the church's St. Anne prayers lingering stricter than Rome's bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's hum as she weaves a rose suggests she's crafting for joy, not just the feast. You settle closer to the meadow where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, braid cornflowers, her quip about a suitor's weedy heart as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her vervain sprig tucked neatly. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, weaves her garland too tight, her crown of thorns sparking giggles like a dropped needle in Alina's Guildhall. Garland weaving wasn't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda crafted silk-trimmed versions for court feasts, their blooms like Zara's foreign belles, but here it's raw, with kirtles dappled with dew, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spice is petals, with women like Cecilie or Sybil swapping braiding tricks like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms, beyond, blessing the blooms like Isabel's sanctity vow. The meadow's glow softens as the sun dips, and Alina crowns you with a daisy chain, her vervain secure as she dares you to wear it proudly. The group's laughter a chorus like a carol's echo. You realize these flower weavings were medieval women's garlanded dance, where laughter outbloomed toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve, or Cecilie's rue-sprigged steps, but spun in petals, not silk. The breeze stills, the villages spire faint in the dusk, and you're starting to feel Alina's warmth, her braiding a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, garland lopsided, wondering what other joys these blooms held, and how women wove fun into the medieval days' fragrant, star-bound embrace. You're tucked into the smoky bustle of a medieval village inn, the air thick with the scent of spiced ale and the warm tang of mutton stew simmering over a hearth. Rough-hewn tables groan under clay mugs, and women in kirtles lean close, their eyes wide as a swarthy traveller spins tales of distant lands, silk markets, desert sands, and sea monsters. You're not here to fetch kindling, you're joining the storytelling sessions where medieval women found fun, their delight in exotic. Tales from foreign visitors, a thrilling escape from daily routines, far from the church's familiar sermons. The village's nighttime hush seeps through a creaky door, and you're trying not to knock over your mug while you soak in this worldly chatter, hoping you don't mispronounce a far-off place and spark a round of chuckles. Foreign travellers. Tales were a medieval woman's window to wonder, where stories of distant realms ignited joy, a bolder thrill than Alina's flower garlands, but woven with the same village curiosity, unlike Rome's imperial dispatches. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, trade records like those from the Hanseatic League show merchants and pilgrims from Byzantium, Al-Andalus, or beyond visiting European villages, their tales of exotic lands shared in inns, or markets as noted in chronicles like Marco Polo's accounts. You're listening beside Alina, our garland-weaving archer, her kirtle patched, her grin sharp as a Genoese trader describes a camel's stubborn gait, teasing you to guess the beast size or stick to sheep. You'd probably guess horse big, muttering about needing a medieval travel blog, but Alina's rapt stare, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the inn into a stage, echoing Eleanor's tournament tales but wilder, fit for a village midnight. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women offered travellers a sprig of rosemary before a tale, believing it sharpened memory for the story's magic. A charm as savvy as Alina's vervain-crowned garlands. Picture Alina handing one over, only for it to crumble into the trader's ale, prompting a mock, spiced saga. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval memory stick gone soggy, unlike Rome's sacred scrolls, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether these tale sessions were pure fun or cultural exchange, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they broadened horizons, like Alina's harvest songs. Others think they were fleeting distractions, with the church's St. Anne prayers lurking stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's gasp at a tale of a star-eating sea beast suggests she's lost in wonder, not just learning. You lean closer to the table, where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, sip ale, her quip about the traders. Tall camel tails, as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her rosemary sprig tucked in her sleeve. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, asks if camels spit like goats, her earnest query sparking roars, her blush like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Tale sessions weren't just for peasants, noble women like Matilda Hurd, travellers at court, their silks warmed like Zara's foreign belles, but here it's raw, with kirtles smoky from the hearth, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spices stories, with women like Cecilie or Sybil swapping guesses about desert stars like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms beyond, blessing the inn like Isabel's sanctity vow. The fire's glow dims, and Alina passes you a mug, her rosemary gone but her eyes bright, urging you to ask the trader about flying carpets. The groups hum a chorus like a carol's echo. You realize these foreign travelers' tales were medieval women's voyage, where laughter sailed beyond toil, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but spun in words, not silk. The embers settle, the villages spire dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's awe, her stories a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit or Edith's tale-spinning spark. You linger, mug warm in hand, wondering what other joys these tales held, and how women dreamed fun into the medieval night's hearth-lit, star-bound embrace. You're darting through the dappled shade of a medieval churchyard, the air cool with the scent of mossy stone and the faint sweetness of wild thyme sprouting between graves. Laughter rings out as women in kirtles chase each other, their skirts hitched, weaving past weathered crosses and yew trees, their game of tag a burst of glee amid the silent stones. You're not here to light a votive, you're joining the churchyard games where medieval women found fun, their playful romps among graves, a lively defiance of solemnity far from the church's hushed nave. The village's afternoon hum drifts from nearby cottages, and you're trying not to trip over a headstone while you dive into this spirited chase, hoping you don't dodge too slowly and become it for the next round. Churchyard games were a medieval woman's playground where youth and laughter danced with memory, a freer joy than Alina's traveller's tales, but grounded in the village's heart, unlike Rome's public ludus contests. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, parish records like those from the Diocese of Exeter note villagers, including women, playing games like tag or blind man's buff in churchyards after services or on feast days, their antics tolerated as communal release despite clerical grumbles. You're dodging Alina, our tail-loving archer, her kirtle flecked with grass, her grin sharp as she lunges to tag you, teasing you'll outrun a ghost if you're quick enough. You'd probably stumble, muttering about needing a medieval gym membership, but Alina's chase, like Marjorie's market quips, turns the graves into a maze, echoing Eleanor's tournament cheers but simpler, fit for a village noon. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women tied a ribbon to a yew branch before playing, believing it kept spirits friendly during games, a charm as whimsical as Alina's rosemary-sprigged tales. Picture Alina knotting hers, only for it to snag her sleeve, prompting a mock, ghostly tug. You'd chuckle, imagining it's a medieval game prep gone spectral, unlike Rome's sacred tokens, but not those crocodile dung potions, thank the saints. Historians still argue whether these games were pure fun or communal bonding, like Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. Some say they eased tensions like Alina's harvest songs. Others think they flirted with irreverence, with the church's St. Anne prayers looming stricter than Rome's Bacchanalia revels. You're not sure, but Alina's sprint, dodging across, suggests she's playing for laughs, not just piety. You weave past a grave where women like Edith, our ivy-broached elder, cheer from a bench, her quip about a fleet-footed spirit as sharp as Ellen's well-side barbs, her ribbon charm fluttering. The humour hits when a young lass, Maud perhaps, trips on a root, her ghost chase ending in a tumble, her giggle like Thomas's St. Joseph ring fumble. Games weren't just for peasants. Noble women like Matilda played courtly versions. In castle grounds, their silks flouncing like Zara's foreign belles. But here it's raw, with kirtles muddy from the grass, unlike Beatrice's cloistered psalms or Hilda's childbirth trials. You recall Joan's yellow hood defiance. Here, the spice is speed, with women like Cecilie or Sybil swapping tag tricks like Maud's orchard chatter, their fun a spark free of Agnes's annulment woes, though the church's spire looms, blessing, the yard like Isabel's sanctity vow. The sun dips, and Alina tags you, her ribbons secure as she darts off, her laugh daring you to chase. The group's cheers a chorus, like a carol's echo. You realize these churchyard games were medieval women's romp, where laughter outran solemnity, like Sabina's Roman divorce nerve or Cecilie's rue-sprigged dance, but played among stones, not silk. The shadows lengthen, the village's spire, dark beyond, and you're starting to feel Alina's pulse, her tag a defiance of routine's grind, like Nora's brothel grit, or Edith's tail-spinning spark. You linger, panting from the chase, wondering what other joys these graves held, and how women raced fun into the medieval days' sacred, star-bound embrace. You're reclining on a grassy hill, above a medieval village, the air cool with the scent of night-damp clover, and the faint smoke of hearth fires curling into a sky ablaze with stars. Below, the church spire gleams faintly, guarding cottages, where Alina, Edith, and Joan rest, their laughter from dances, tales, and games echoing in your memory like a fading carol. You're not just stargazing, you're reflecting on the joys of medieval women, their fun a vibrant tapestry woven through markets, meadows, and cloisters, outlasting the church's rules and village toil. The village's nighttime hush cradles you, and you're sinking into the grass, letting these moments settle, wondering how they lit hearts under this eternal sky, far from Rome's grand spectacles. Women's fun in medieval times wasn't a fleeting spark. It was a flame, kindled in every jest, song, and chase, from Alina's maypole ribbons to Eleanor's galloping rides, as vital as the harvest. A mainstream fact grounds us. By the 14th century, chronicles like those of Jean Froissart note women's leisure, dances, feasts, storytelling as shaping community bonds, their joys recorded in guild and parish accounts, defying the era's labour and piety. You're picturing Alina, her kirtle still dusted from the churchyard tag, giggling under these stars, her heart echoing Marjorie's market deals, or Gillian's dove brooch flirtations. You'd probably sigh wishing for their zest, but their fun, like Edith's ivy-broached tales, lives in the village's pulse, unlike Rome's Bacchanalia wine or Sabina's divorce drama. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some women believed stars were the laughter of past revellers, guiding new joys, a charm as dreamy as Alina's U-ribboned tag games. Imagine Alina gazing up, Swearing a streak is Maud's giggle from her garland fumble, her grin star bright. You'd chuckle, thinking it's a medieval TikTok of cosmic LOLs, unlike Rome's starry oracles, but not those crocodile dung potions. Thank the saints. Historians still argue whether women's fun was unique to the era or universal, like Flavia's Roman market wit. Some say the church's grip, like St. Anne's prayers, made it distinct. Others think its human spark, from Zara's foreign bells to Joan's yellow hood, was timeless, like Cececi's rue-sprigged dance. You're not sure, but the star's twinkle feels like it holds every laugh we've shared, from Alina's archery shot to Sybil's bathhouse splash. You trace the constellations, recalling moments, Alina's harvest song, Edith's riddle jab, Maud's tumbled tag. The humor hits one last time as you picture Thomas, his St. Joseph ring lost in a fair's dust, still chasing Alina's garlanded grin, like Gaius's Roman love curse flop. Fun was women's defiance, a spark in every market haggle, like Marjorie's, or cloistercraft like Beatrice's, as bold as Eleanor's hawk or Hilda's childbirth hymns. It wove garlands, riddles, even churchyard chases, each a thread in a world where Joan's brothel grit and Maud's orchard dreams danced free of Agnes woes, unlike Rome's Sabura trades. These joys, Alina's, Edith's, Sybil's, were medieval women's starlight, burning bright against toil's shadow, like Isabel's sanctity vow, but wilder, spun in laughter, not silk. As the night deepens, the stars soften, their glow a gentle blanket over the village's sleeping roofs, where Alina dreams of her next tag, Edith of her next tale. You're safe here, wrapped in the warmth of women who laughed through labor, their joys a quiet fire that lingers in your heart. The hill's breeze slows, carrying the village's hush into a soothing hum, and your thoughts drift, heavy with their spark. Let the grass cradle you, let the stars watch you, and let these women, Alina's, Marjorie's, Maud's, whisper you into peace. Close your eyes, breathe deep, and sink into the dark where medieval laughter sings on, guiding dreams as endless as the sky's starlit, timeless embrace. Sweet dreams.